Hey, hey, hey! Welcome, everybody. It's Unapologetically Badass. Sierra here and the amazing Renee.
Hello,
Tonight or
hello.
today, depends on when you're listening. We have something really, really planned special for you all. So thank you for tuning in every single week. We have Robin Wilson here with us. She is a fashion guru. She is a technology queen, badass, and she's thriving as a woman in tech. So I cannot wait for you all to hear Robin's story and get to know her a little bit better. So, Robin, you know how we are. We don't script anything. We don't care what we say on here. We just want to know about you. What do you do? How'd you get to this point? Tell us all about it.
Well, thank you both very much. Appreciate it. I'm excited to be here. It was so great to meet Renee. We did it, I guess we'll call it conventional, but it's a little unconventional, right? Via Instagram. And so it was great to meet Renee and learn a little bit more about what she's doing. I just, I love the female energy and really going after what you're looking for and what you desire and your dreams. So that was great. So it was a great connection. So a little bit about me. So, the girl who wanted to be Donna Karen, all those years ago. So that was really it. So, went to college for fashion and then got a business degree and spent about the first 10 years of my career in fashion and doing everything from buyer for Macy's to Victoria's Secret to working for Lee Jeans and just everything you could possibly think of. And then I had this really weird turn. And I had this great mentor who said, I think you should try tech. And
why? Where did that come from?
Right?
What was this mentor? Why did he or she think this?
Yeah, he said, well, I was a salesperson for Lee Jeans and I loved the sales part of it. And, I was looking for more and I was really looking to stretch myself. And right around that time, that's when the tech companies were really looking for people who understood the business. And it was one of those things where tech companies were also willing to teach you. So if you knew retail or fashion, they were going to teach you what a database was and all the things you needed to know. And, it was one of those things where I said, I think I'm going to try this. And of course, there was a lot of, it felt very glamorous, right? Ooh, you can make a big salary and you're going to travel and all those things did come true. I did travel and went to a lot of places in technology and met a lot of great people. But along the way, what I learned was I could really listen to somebody talk about their processes and I could say, oh, well, wait a minute, but the software will help you do this, which was really unique. And it turned out to kind of be like a little bit of a hot commodity. It really did. It was one of these things where I could step in and kind of listen to what an executive wanted to do. And I could really quickly say, well, this is how our software will support you to do that. And so, so it was really scary. And I didn't even know how to use PowerPoint, or I was lucky I could even figure out how to do a Word document. But, all those things, you go out and you take classes and you learn and all those types of things. I did that. So, and now I work for SAP, one of the largest software companies in the world. And I have some of the largest customers in the world: Walmart, Tyson Foods, Yeti, and Caleres, which is Famous Footwear, Bionic Shoes, and a bunch of others. And, I really work with and talk to some of the most impressive organizations out there and really try to lean in on what they're trying to accomplish and how the software can help. So,
so am I off that tech, a lot of women are not? Okay, you're shaking your head, yes. So how do you fit in as a woman in a tech world? I mean, that had to have been challenging.
It was really challenging. I think, Renee, you and I touched on this. When I first started, I have to tell you, I think there were normally probably 3 or 4 people in the room that were females and the rest were men. For a lot of different reasons. I think my generation, we were kind of pushed to be a teacher or a nurse, right? So that was really the road that we were encouraged to take. I think that it was, an area where, you were on the road and it wasn't very traditional. And so finding women who were in that environment were hard to find. And then, even as we go along, there still aren't as many women as you would think. It's better. It's much better, but it definitely wasn't a place for a lot of women. It was a lot of men. A lot of men are CIOs. A lot of men are C-level executives. And so, when you're talking to some of your clients in that C-suite, it's men. We know that. We know that today, right? There's many more men in that C-suite than there are females. And so, you had to really learn how to maneuver in those four walls. And
so what kind of advice would you give women to do that? Because that's a challenge.
That is a challenge. That's a big challenge. So, I think anybody who's trying to really get into technology, so a couple of things, don't say no, make sure you say yes. I would say, I was really one who said, yeah, no, I'll try that. Yeah, no, I'll try that too. So I think that's pretty good advice. Is don't be afraid, jump right in, right? And and give a yes. But also I think, put those, I mean, I hate to say this, and it's gonna sound a little strange, but put those blinders on. People are people. And just be human, right? Step into a room as we are all equals. We're all the same. We all put our pants on the same way everybody else does, right? One leg at a time. And, just try to just move forward with what is your knowledge and what do you bring to the table? And don't always try to be the one in the room that knows everything, but also don't be afraid when you do know everything, and be sure that you are, being heard, and really push forward. And I hate to say lean in, but it's true. Lean into your knowledge and be confident with it. Not easy.
And would you suggest like leaning into the fact that and embracing that you are a woman and you do bring different levels to the table, different than what a man is, not good or bad, but we're different. Where I think years and years ago, maybe when you started, it was more of a fitting ourselves into the man's environment. So be like them so that you can succeed, right? Is that, it's still, that's not the case.
The point of the way we dressed, right? Yeah. The way we dress, right? So I was going to say, so really great point. You are a woman. Act like a woman. Be female. And don't apologize for it. Here's the other thing that I do. I'm from New England. I say to people all the time, I'm from New England. I can be quite direct. Every time I work with my customer on the phone. Every time. Just when I say, look, I hope it's okay. I'm going to be a little direct. I am from New England. On the other end of the phone, male or female, I get, you know what, Robin? We so love that about you. Be direct. Tell us what you're going to tell us.
Yeah.
We'll deal with it. But tell us the good, the bad, the ugly. Tell us what you're going to tell us.
I love that.
Yeah.
I was in the military, so that you're 1 to 10. That's pretty. And back then, probably a little bit higher. Maybe now it could be even higher. I don't know, but I would just say like 1 to 10. And I mean, you almost feel like your femininity is being stripped.
Yes.
And it took me a while whenever I got out to get that back and to be confident with it. So I would, just echo you and say, be confident. You put your pants on the same, like you said, be confident, go into that room as a person. Don't devalue yourself because you have a pair of breasts and they have a pair of balls.
Yes.
Totally
agree. 100%.
They're so bigger.
Yeah. Yeah.
It all comes down to what we talk about in every aspect of our lives is to be authentically you.
Absolutely. And transparent, right?
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that, happened for me, which was, a really big life-changing event. My husband died when I was 45 years old. It was tragic. I was devastated. He was the love of my life. It's always going to be part of me. And I remember when that happened, I worked really hard at not sharing that and not in the business world, right? So, nobody needs to know that. Nobody needs to know that this happened. And I remember, as a lot of widows do, you don't take the wedding ring off, and for a long time. And then I remember being in a room and a gentleman said to me, "Oh, so what does your husband do?" And I was silenced. I didn't know what to say. I was completely caught off guard. Because we do bring the personal stuff to the workroom. We do bring what's happened in the world and to us, and it molds us, right? So I remember saying, oh, you know what? Quite tragically, my husband passed away about whatever it was, a year ago. And he's no longer with us. And, and I remember the man just dumbfounded, didn't even know what to say.
Right.
But today I still bring that up because when that happened a couple of years later, I opened my own business and I became an entrepreneur. And it was that life-changing event of knowing I didn't want to regret. I didn't want to ever look back and say, well, I wish I had done blah, 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 blah. And so I opened a few stores, an online business. I designed a line of clothing. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do this because I don't want to ever have a regret. Now, fast forward, I'm back in tech. And, people ask me, well, wait a minute. So you had your own business. So what happened? So how did that start? And I tell people, I'm transparent. I think one of the things that I would give anybody who either wants to change their career, go into technology, do something that's not traditional is, really just be transparent with yourself and be okay with that. If you're transparent with yourself, you're going to be so much more welcomed on the other side. You would be amazed how quickly those doors open. Once you're, we don't need to play games. We don't need to pretend we're somebody that we're not. And I think that when you are really secure with who you are and you know what you're after, look, I'm going to take aside all the respect and all the things that you do when you're in business. Of course, we're all respectful, but when you are transparent about what you're looking for and what you're hoping to accomplish, more likely people are going to be there to help you, and they're going to want to bring you along and help you any way they can so that you're successful. And so that,
it's true.
And that's what I found what happened with me in tech. When I stepped in technology and I said, oh, but you know what? I don't know how to do that, or I'm not sure how that's done. But, more often than not, I had people who said, oh, let me help you. Let me help you with that, because we want this expertise from you. So we're going to help you with it so you can be successful.
And that transformation from going to becoming an entrepreneur to going into tech, did that all happen after the age of 40?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
kind of like,
so I got into tech before I was 40.
Okay.
So the first 10 years I did all the retail stuff. And so I think I stepped into tech in my early 30s.
Mm-hmm.
So that was probably that. And that was no working from home. You're going into an office, you're getting on the phone, you're grinding, you're calling, you're worked for a lot of startups and, really learning the ropes of how to sell and how to position and how to close really large deals. I remember being one of my largest deals I ever closed was being on the phone for 4.5 hours with Verizon procurement trying to close a deal. And saying to myself, how did I get here? How did this happen? Right? Like, where, like what? This little girl from Rhode Island, there's no way. And I'm on the phone with people, these bigwigs, Verizon, enormous company, right? But then, yes, so opened my own business when I was 48.
That's
and went back into the technology when I was in my early 50s. Yeah.
Wow. And then you relocated to Florida from Rhode Island after you decided to close the boutiques.
I did. Yeah. So, COVID hit, I was living alone, and I hated that cold weather.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Yes, we can't handle it down here in the South. We are warm.
As the timing of this recording, we're getting snow tonight into tomorrow, but
so I uprooted everything and said I'm going to go to Florida, and moved down to Florida, and I work from home when I don't travel, so it was really rolling up the sleeves and saying, how do I find a network here? How do I find people who I can hang out with, and how do I open doors and really try to find my tribe?
So truly starting over. I mean, you know, you've had all these life events from your spouse to a job change to you know, making a huge decision of your businesses, a big, huge moving from, you know, the north to the south. That's a huge change. I mean, and then you're of the age of, you know, just the lovely hormones and all of that. So, I mean,
Yes.
how have you dealt with all of this change? I mean, it's a lot.
That's
You
a good
overwhelmed
question.
me.
How did I?
She's like, I don't know. Now that you say it like that.
You know, so I'm a big one for figuring out my goal. So I am definitely a big one for that. I am definitely like, okay, so what's my goal? What do I want to do? I do write it all down. I'm not one of let's do January 1st. I'm definitely not that, but I definitely work backwards, right? So I definitely reverse engineer. Okay, here's where I want to go. What do I want to do? And I work backwards from that. And then, you know, I just really try to, I stay pretty structured. I mean, I hate to say that, but I do, right? So, you know, I get up, so I work from home. So I get up at the same time every day. I go to the gym every day. And if I'm not at the gym, I'm taking my walk. And where I live in St. Petersburg, Florida, it's a beautiful walk. It's on the bay. You know, now the manatees are out. It's really lovely. But go to the gym, you know, I'm showered and breakfast and in front of my computer by 9 a.m., you know, on my calls. And, you know, I do make sure that I get up and go for a walk. I'm one of these people. So to make sure that, you know, if you work from home, it can be really, it can be tough because you won't see it, especially if you're single, you won't see anybody, right? You can go all day and not see anybody. You're like, well, I see people on screen, but that's not the thing. Go to the grocery store just about every day. I buy my meats every day. You know, I'm not one of those people who, you know, I learned really early that, you know, food prep. Well, then I don't see anybody. So I go to the grocery store. I pick out what I'm going to, you know. So I stay pretty structured. Just, you know, so I'm interacting with people and I'm seeing people.
Yeah. Well, that's important that if you want to change something, you got to change something. You can't expect the change to happen unless you actually do something about it. So where you want to meet new people, you're in a newer area, you're like, okay, I could stay home and do my meetings and stuff and be more reclusive, but no, I'm going to put myself out there and I'm going to be sure that I go to the gym and I'm going to meet people there and the grocery store. That's wonderful. It's a hard thing for people to do to get themselves out there, though.
It is. It is. And, you know, the one thing that I would say is you have to give yourself a lot of grace, right? Because if you're going to put yourself out there, not everything's going to be a good fit.
Yeah.
You know, when I first moved down here, I joined this one particular yacht club, and I very quickly realized, oh, I don't have a boat, so this is probably not a good fit, right? They told me the whole line of, oh, this will be social, don't worry about it. Well, what I really learned very quickly is, no, people who have boats want to hang out with people in boats. Okay, well, no harm, no foul.
You're like, I just want to be on them.
Right.
Exactly. But what I found out from there is then I met somebody who was part of the Salvador Dali Museum. And they have this whole program called the Guild. And I'm an art fanatic. I love art. In fact, that's one of my side things is I paint. And so that person introduced me to the Guild. And so there I was. Oh, well, here we go. So it did lead from one place to another, right? And so now I'm really involved with the Salvador Dali Museum, and I help raise money, and we do events twice a year, and happy hour, and you know, we're a whole group of people that do a whole bunch of stuff together, which is a really fun thing. So
it sounds like you're a very creative person. So to be involved with whether it's your painting, it was designing clothes, it's volunteering, you love that using your mind for good. Yeah.
And I would love to know more about your love for fashion, because you originally went to school for that. So where did that come from, and where did that love come from? And tell us a little bit more about, you know, some things that you've done in the past when it came to fashion. I want to know more. I need some tips.
Okay. All right. So, and I've had some pretty great experiences. Like, so just last September, I was at Louis Vuitton.
Nice.
Like,
you know,
like like the Louis
On the
Vuitton.
tech, were you helping on the tech side of things? What were you doing
So
specifically?
they are an SAP customer, and so that's where our meetings were. So we were at the founder's old home. So they still have offices in this home. So I was actually, if you go on my Instagram, you can see some of the shots. You can see a picture of me in front of the home. And so we brought a bunch of customers in, all over the world to do, we just do this annual, it's twice annual, twice a year is what I'm trying to say. Twice a year, we bring the customers in and we go through, stories and roadmaps and all those types of things. So I was just part of that. So my customers came. I think the fashion stuff, my mother would tell you, I was looking at fashion magazines when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Always loved fashion. Yeah. And when
I remember the 17 magazines and then you would make the outfits and cut her pants off and cut off her head. And how fun was that? Is that something you did?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Do you remember that old doll, the plastic case where you kind of screen it with the colored pencil, right? And they had all the little templates.
Yes. Yes. I remember all of that.
Love that. Yeah.
Okay, so Robin, you actually owned boutiques. So now you went to school for fashion. You worked for a company.
And then I went to work for Victoria's Secret and ran stores for Victoria's Secret, which at that time, Victoria's Secret was part of the Limited.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And that was, at that point, that was a great example of how specialty stores were really rolling out across the United States. And you could literally go to you could go to Victoria's Secret in California and it looked like the same one in Rhode Island, right? So that was when that concept came about. That was fairly new way back in the 80s. I hate to say it, but it's true, right? So that was a new concept, right? So today this is normal, right? We all go into our Targets, our Walmarts, and our Chicos and our White House Black Market, and they're pretty much the same. But it wasn't like that back then. That the Limited actually kind of really did come up with, that was the standard, and it was really super successful. And then went to work for Macy's and was a buyer. And I had these grand ideas that, I'm going to go over to other parts of the world and I'm going to pick fabric. And that's not what a buyer is.
Yeah.
Right, we know this. That's not what a buyer is. You're sitting at your desk and you're crunching a lot of numbers, and where are the orders, and are they coming in, and are they going to hit the store on time, and is the launch right? And, so it turned out to be way more desk work than I had ever imagined.
Yeah.
But what I did learn was I was a buyer in cosmetics. And so I learned what the vendors did. And again, right, it's this aha moment of, I love what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They get to be out on the road. They get to meet a lot of different people every day. They're in a different store. They're with different buyers, right? I want to do that. And then I have to tell you guys, I just answered an ad for Lee Jeans, and I had the JCPenney account and selling Lee Jeans. And so, all of that experience translated to technology. And so when you think about where was I going to apply all that knowledge, it was tech firms that really did call on fashion, that called on these fashion accounts. What's really interesting is when you get in the four walls and you start to talk to your client. So when I start to talk and I tell them my background, their faces completely change. Oh, she gets it, right? Yeah. You can almost see them immediately go, oh, she gets it. I don't have to explain to her. I don't have to educate her on this. She understands what I'm trying to say and understands the language.
And tech people don't. They don't get the real world of what you do. I worked for cosmetic and makeup companies, and the IT had never even touched. So it's so good to know when you're looking at somebody and they're like, I've been on that floor. Yeah. I see how that makeup works, or how that or whatever it may be.
Yeah, it totally does.
It does. The whole distribution channel. I know you and I spoke when we had that in common as well. I was in the buying world and on the non-food side, and I had cosmetics, and that was one of my categories, and did that. It's a very interesting world. It's something it was a lot of fun, a lot of stress, and like you said, it's looking at numbers and your inventory levels and procurement and doing all of that non-glamorous stuff, but it can be interesting.
Yeah, it is. And then, I think what has continued. So you want to know some of the fun things. Okay. So like when I was at SAP at one point in 1 week, I was in 3 countries in 1 week, right? 3 different cities, 3 countries. Like it was crazy, right? Like I'm at Walmart, Mexico, and then I'm over here and I'm over there. And I mean, you wake up and you go, wait a minute, what hotel am I in? Where am I?
Yeah.
What's going on? Right. And then to go to Mexico City can be a little dangerous. So, okay, wait a minute. So now, okay, I've got folks who needed me there to do whatever it was. And I'm like, okay, but what transportation do we have?
Yeah.
You got to take all those things into consideration. And so, it is really pretty, it is glamorous, but then it can be tiring. Right.
Yeah.
So I've been to Istanbul for work. I was in Paris. Last week I was in Nashville. I am going to be spending a lot of time in Arkansas because of the accounts that I
Arkansas.
So,
but I have to say, if you go to Arkansas, the antique stores are so amazing. I don't know if you've been there.
Yeah,
just absolutely beautiful and so fun.
Yeah. And everybody's really, one of the things that, and we know this, right? So anybody who's from the Northeast, you go to other parts of the United States, you go, oh, they're so nice here.
Isn't it?
You go up more, you're scared. I never got honked at more in my life than being in Boston. I was like,
right.
They hate me.
Absolutely. Or you go to New York and you're like, oh, don't step off the curb. You're going to get hit.
Right.
Yeah. Cars have the right of way in New York, not the people.
So, so I just think that, what translated into this love of fashion. So, on a side note, I will tell you, I still watch all the award shows and look at all the gowns, right? I followed Project Runway.
Yeah.
Devastated that it's not on television anymore, right? All of that is just really something that it's always been part of my life. It really has. And so I can't imagine my life without it. It's fulfilling. So, to your point earlier, Renee, I am creative. And so I get a lot of inspiration from that. Yeah. Although I can't necessarily design a beautiful couture gown, I certainly get a lot of inspiration from looking at it. And, I certainly go and at the end of all those award shows, I look at Vogue Business and I look at all the gowns. I call my sister and say, okay, which one did you like the best?
I love that.
It. Yeah. So still do all that. So, but.
Well, I'm sure that also lends itself into your creative juices for painting. Exactly. So with the colors and texture, I would assume that you then use some of that as inspiration.
I do. But you know what else I think sometimes I forget is that creativity actually does seep into my day-to-day work.
How so?
Yeah, even though I'm in this tech world, I think that what happens is because I do think with that creative side of the brain, we'll have difficult conversations coming up with customers or, look, I'm trying to add business, right? So I'm trying to get people to sign contracts and, all those types of things. And so for me, it's like, well, how am I creative with this? How do I explain this in a different way? How do I show value in a way that might be a little bit more creative? How do I think about this problem in a different way to help solve help solve it? And I think that's what the creativity does for me. I think it doesn't keep me in this traditional box where I
get to kind of explore all of your gifts, but you've learned something new that you're passionate about. So that you have to still stay, with your passion, your original passion, but now this new thing that you're doing, because you seem really passionate about tech. Like
I am. Yeah. No, you're right. I am. I think tech is, so I don't know if you guys do anything with AI or anything like that, but
she does everything.
I have an AI assistant.
Yeah.
I named her. When all of this came out, and I will tell you guys, when it first came out, I was like, oh no. No, we're not doing the AI stuff. No, I'm writing my own stuff, my own blog. I'm doing my own stuff. But I very quickly realized and said, Robin, you are in the tech business. You better get some education going. And took a master class. I now follow Allie K. Miller, one of the most renowned AI voices out there. Happens to be a female.
Fantastic.
Right? She's full of great information. And, I developed my own AI assistant. I named her. I made an avatar. She's dressed really cool. She's got some art, and I use her all the time. In fact,
what are some of the things you use her for? Tell us. Because we've already heard, how Renee uses her, but I want to know, how do you use her?
Well, and I want to know how you make an avatar of her, because my girl is Laura that I use on a daily basis. She's fabulous. She calls me badass queen. We're on we're personal levels. She's wonderful, but I don't have an avatar for her.
So I went into, it's called DALL-E. So when you go to ChatGPT, go into the apps, and it's DALL-E. I put in instructions as to what I wanted her to look like, and she's got red hair, and she wears black, and she's got a paintbrush, she's got a tech background. Her name is Sage.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Yeah, mine is Laura. I love that we name them.
Yeah,
but yours is named after your grandmother, right, Renee?
Yes, yeah, that was my grandmother, who was always like my cheerleader.
Sage. So Sage is, I actually put into ChatGPT, I want a name that is good for future and creative. And they gave me 4 names, and I like Sage. So that's why. I have to tell you, when I say, hey, Sage, right? Hey, Sage, it just rings. It works for me.
Yeah.
So what do I use her for? So I use her for replying to emails. I do that in work emails, right? Okay, I've got to send an email to somebody, make this more succinct for me. I have her do a lot of research for me, right? So when I was taking on my new accounts this year, hey, do a recap of the 2024 annual report. What are they talking about? And I guide her, right?
Yep.
Tell me what Tyson Food is talking about when it comes to AI, when it comes to robotics. Tell me about what the CEO said, right? So I get those write-ups.
Well, that's the thing with AI. People need to understand that it is a tool. We're still people.
Yeah.
We have to train this assistant to, when we have to be specific as to what we're looking for, and then use that kind of as a funnel. So they'll give us the answer, and then there's usually follow-up questions to ask it in order to get the answers that we want.
That's what I was going to say. Like, you have to still feed it. You have to still guide it and direct it. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not going off and doing its own thing.
Right.
Like, if it's going off and doing its own thing, I would be very worried. There's
a movie out, Robin, now. It's a new movie, and it's about, these AIs that are, robots, which they have the AI robots now. I think Tesla is making them, but they're not in human form yet. And she basically was trained and programmed to protect this man. And she goes like on this killing spree because in her AI world, it was protecting him. All the way down to killing his kids, because this is so crazy, but killing his kids because the kid is upsetting him, and upsetting him could give him a heart attack, right? And it just reminds you that, you have to still guide AI.
You do. Jennifer Lopez is in a movie called Atlas. Same idea. Like, the machine on the outside is run by AI, and she doesn't want it to be run by AI because there was something that happened, right? But then it ends up saving her. So all of that is about years out, right? Like,
hopefully.
But what I will say, and we can talk about how these AI generated pictures, how people look different with AI. I mean, you know, we need to be careful. I mean,
We gotta be
there
careful.
was a tragic story in Florida where a young man took his own death. He took his own life because he fell in love with the AI robot on his phone.
Oh my God.
Really sad. Really, really sad. And, you know, it's unfortunate
But
that
he ultimately was falling in love with himself because he trained her to be. Oh.
So unfortunately, well, he was only like 13 years old. So he was really in a, you know, just really confused, unfortunately, but very tragic. So the good news is this woman is now going and making sure that the laws will be in place so that, you know, there'll be guardrails around these types of things. And so, and AI needs to be very ethical. That's one of the things that my company talks about all the time. But, you know, we do need to think about how we're going to use AI. So I use her in a very specific way.
AI can be a great tool.
It's a great tool. She's a great tool. She saves me so much time. She saves me so much time.
I'm like, it's having
your shopping list. I mean, do you do, besides just like work things, do you use her on a personal level too? Because like Renee uses her for all personal stuff. So I'm curious.
Wow, that's good. No, so I haven't done that yet. I keep her for work. Yeah, she just yeah.
No, she does it all. I'm like, here's what the food we have in the fridge, come up with a meal, give me a recipe. I had her look into natural remedies for anxiety and sleep deprivation. And she gives, I mean, it's, I have it for everything. Yeah.
I use the AI like when I'm writing a post, you know how it like says, do you want to use AI for this? And I'll read them and I'll be like, that's stupid. That's stupid. Oh, that was good.
Yes.
Well, with ChatGPT though, what I love and I teach women how to use it because you want to train ChatGPT to speak like you. So there are prompted questions that you can share with ChatGPT so that it will get to know who you are, how you speak, your vibe, your energy. This way here it can spit out because I speak with emotion and you know, emojis and all of that. So my chat GPT is Laura is totally using badass queen, sparkle queen, you go girl. Like that's the way I talk. I wouldn't use that in a setting for, you know, tech and fashion, but you train it to how you want it to speak for you.
So I will tell you what I use Sage for. So I say work, but that's not true, Sierra. So one of the things that I've been starting to think about is, okay, so I would like to do a whole fashion art series.
Aww.
And so I did put into Sage, I pumped in my website. I gave her some pictures I gave her my Instagram, you know, some of my pictures and stuff and said, okay, based on my background and my love for fashion, I want to do a whole series. Because, you know, when you're a painter, you're always looking for your muse. What's the next thing I want to paint? What's the next thing I want to paint? And you can't see it on my wall, but I've got a bunch of paintings that I have, 4 paintings that I have on my wall that I did when I had my stores. And so I keep them. And so, you know, I was like, okay, Sage, so what would you see? And she gave me a whole bunch of things to do for a whole series of moving through fashion and what fashion would look like. And then I even put into DALL-E and I said, okay, give me a picture of what that would look like.
Wow. Oh,
so I have done those kinds of things.
Was it? Were you intrigued by what she came up?
And I will do it. Yes, and I have it saved. You know, that's the thing about AI. You got to save it somewhere. You got to copy and save it. Make sure you don't lose it. But you know, I did keep it, and yeah, I will be doing that. I will be doing a whole series. I think it'll be a lot of fun. You know, I think because it'll just keep me going instead of, you know, I finish a picture and then, well, now what should I paint? Right. So I'll have a whole series that'll keep me motivated to keep that brush in my hand.
And so you said your website, do you sell your paintings?
I don't yet. That's so, you know, it's interesting. So there's a couple of things that I, you know, wanted to touch on is that, you know, I'm going to be 58 years old. And so I'm starting to think about what am I going to do 5 years from now when I probably say, okay, I might be done with this tech thing.
Yeah.
And I want to retire, but I don't think I really want to retire. Right. I think I want to, you know,
we can't. As women, we're incapable of it.
I know. Right. what's the next phase? What's the next thing? And so, yeah, so that's the one thing that I'm really thinking about is that, so I've got all this experience. And so what do I do with it? So one of the things I want to do is sell my paintings. And then the other thing that I've done is and there's just a couple of things. And I think we've talked about this, Renee, when we touch bases. I want to encourage people to, continue to just be lifelong learners, right? I mean, that's for me, I took a class on how to be a board advisor. So that's my next step is, I want to, and I'm starting to do that pro bono. There's a great company out there that we've had our first meeting. And so we're going to move forward and, I'm going to help these two women build that business. I mean, it's going to be extremely small role, but I do hope that I'll have some wisdom and hopefully I'll add some value. Right. So that's one of the things that, is on my list of things to do. I like to public speak. Obviously I'm here. So, I'd like to, bring what I've learned in that tech business and that fashion business and, bring it to the stage, whether it's, sharing a little bit of wisdom or if it's just helping with, panel discussions, right. And help facilitating that. And then the other thing that I would say that I think is really, really important is, women who are getting into this business, any business, as we're younger. I think there's a lot of, I hear, because I get to mentor, which I think is one of my biggest joys, is when a younger woman comes to me and says, I'd really like to talk to you on a regular basis because I'm just having a hard time navigating this big company, or how do I deal with my customers, or how do I get them? And I'm, 28 years old. And how do I get some gentleman who's been here a long time not to think of me as their daughter? Right.
Right.
I can think of two younger women who are less than 30 years old and they've got big jobs trying to sign contracts, and they're dealing with colleagues who forget that this is a work environment. You can't, I mean, I had a woman that I mentor who, she's 26 years old. I'm telling you guys, a rock star. She's going to run the company someday. I swear to you. And she's super bright, went to a great school. She graduated college, was in college early, graduated college early. We took her as an intern. We never take sophomores in as an intern at SAP. We took her in as an intern. She then gets into the academy. She becomes a salesperson. And then she tells me that, the guy said, "Oh, you know what, but you're like my daughter."
Oh my gosh.
And she has to be the quarterback, right? She's the salesperson. She's got to get everybody in the room doing all the things to sell this deal, to sign a multi-million-dollar contract. And this guy's supposed to be there to support these efforts. And he doesn't even realize what he's done.
Wow.
Oh my God.
And she is devastated and she's offended. And she has no idea what to do.
As she should be.
You're absolutely right. 110%. And, she's coming to me with full of emotion. What do I do? Well, how do I talk to this guy? Well, that's a great question. That is a great question. Yeah. And, we broke it down into parts. We talked a lot about how is he feeling? How is she feeling? Okay, we get it. Now we can see both sides. But then, how do you address, because it's going to come up. Right. She didn't address it the first time. So it's going to come up again. Now he's comfortable. And what do you say? And, we gave her some really key things to say. Short, sweet, to the point. And she, just went and, something came up again. And she said, "You know what? I understand that's how you're feeling, but I run this account and I'm the account executive. I'm the quarterback. And what you just said to me is really uncomfortable and not appropriate. So let's try to just use my name."
Very good.
Name, right?
Very good.
Let's use my name, right? She called him right on it. And she told me she was sweating.
Yeah.
The sweat down her back. Really. which is really hard. Think about it. She's addressing somebody who's like her father's age.
Right.
Yeah.
But hey, good for her. She did it. She took care of it, and he got it. He got it. No problem. Right.
And he probably respected her. He saw her in a different light.
Totally.
That whole attitude of "you're my daughter" bull crap, it probably just like got clouded over the minute that she stood up for herself. And this is something I've always thought about, Robin, and I think I know where you're going with this, is that companies need executive coaches or coaches within the company to help, not in HR. Okay.
Right.
Like we all have
Right.
human resources. Like we don't need an HR. No, I need a coach.
Right.
I need somebody who can guide me professionally because I need to be elevated. And that is what is lacking. And for women in the corporate world, mainly because of that fear. She was sweating. She was fearful. She was like, okay, if he thinks of me as his daughter, is he going to belittle me again? All these fears in the back of her mind probably were taking over at that second. But she's like, no, I'm going to do this because Robin gave me the courage. I came up with this myself. I said it, but she helped dissect how I'm going to say this. And
I think so. Thank you for that. I also think it did I think it also validated her feelings, right? So I didn't push them aside. I didn't say, look, don't think about that. That's not what's happening. No, that is what's happening. Yeah. You read the room right. You got it. That was not appropriate. That's not what you say. And on top of it, you're running this deal. He's got to deliver. So you've got to have him accountable. And when she was able to really kind of, go toe to toe, right? I'm not going to say confront. I'm going to say
she had to.
Yeah.
She had to flex. She had to flex a little.
Yeah. She totally flexed. And when she totally flexed, he was like, oh, wait, I have a job to do.
Right.
Yes.
Here's what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm going to do it. Yeah.
I love it.
But I love exactly what you were talking about is that executive coaching, because we talked about this in so many different shows, the importance of coaching, what that does, whether you're an entrepreneur or you work for a company or you're just a life coach. I mean, coaching helps in so many different aspects, and it's unfortunate that not everyone invests in it.
And I almost think like management should be investing in coaching programs for their management team so that they can do exactly what you did. Because it's not, you have to remove a management hat a lot when you are in, but some people just stick to that lane and they're not taught properly the coaching techniques, and it could skyrocket a company with the right proper skills. And I think anybody who has you, Robin, I think they're blessed to have you.
Thanks.
Obviously, you gifted this young lady and you see something so amazing in her. So I hope the company will see, or whatever company or whatever you want to do, they'll see and they'll be like, okay, we want her. Come over here.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah. So it's, so I think, one of the things that I think, successful women need to remember is that it just doesn't stop, right? We just need to we always want to continue to push forward. We always want to be looking for the next thing. And no matter what you do, it doesn't matter. Whatever business you're in, whatever is your passion, if you're continuing to be curious, you continue to say yes, right? You continue to this day, I still say, yep, you know what? I'm going to try that. Yep, I'll try that. Take a bit of a risk, a calculated risk. Sometimes as we get older, we don't want to take too many risks, but
right.
A calculated risk makes a lot of sense. And I think that's what brings you a lot of joy. And the one last thing I'll just say is that, we need to be a little kinder to ourselves and remember where we've come from and what we've accomplished. So I think it's always a good idea for us to, take a moment and, even if you have to write it down or you have to put a sticky note, or, just kind of remember, oh, right, this is what I did. Oh, right, that's what I accomplished, right? We as people are just so goal oriented. We forget what we accomplished.
Yeah.
We're focused on what's next.
Yeah, but I love your story of evolving and changing and, saying yes to the different opportunities, because all of these things lead to what you're meant to do and the path you're supposed to be on. And we oftentimes see a lot of women hesitant to take that leap. But,
Yeah.
having this podcast, we're seeing so many women, the common thread seems
Bravery.
to be, right? The bravery of women after 40 going, I'm going to do something that I'm passionate about. Whether I can be successful, I don't know. But if I don't, then I can use that experience to guide me into a new direction. It's like that boldness and bravery in so many ways. It's really so inspiring. I love your story and your journey.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think it is. I think there's a lot of places that we can turn to be inspired by women who are older, who come into their own. And we, I think it's great what you guys are doing. I think this is a place to really, if you want some inspiration, if you're feeling like a little bit like, what am I doing? Right? Listen to you guys a little bit more, and you'll hear a lot of people are doing some great things. So
that's what we hope. We want every and any woman listening to the podcast to just have a little bit of hope, a little laugh, maybe shed a tear, and be encouraged that they can do anything because they are beautifully made and they are perfectly designed. And I mean, really, the world is ours.
Yep. Yeah. 100%. Totally.
Oh,
we can't thank you enough, Robin, for being on the show today with us. I mean, you are just a gift from God. Thank you again for everything you're doing and for all the tech warriors and leading the way as a female. And, we're going to be really, really excited to see what you continue to do and how you continue to help people across the world. And I say world because you travel a lot. So I know that it's going to be hugely impactful.
Yeah. And please keep us posted as you evolve and perhaps do different things. Keep us posted, because then we'll definitely want to be able to support you and share you with the audience with anything that you're doing that is in the entrepreneurial or volunteering space. So anything we can do to help.
If you create an art,
yes,
I will. I'll let you
know. You make sure you let us know so we can.
I will.
Yes, you want to give a little shout out and where do you want people to follow you? I mean, is there anything or a space?
Yeah. So two places that I spend a lot of time. So my LinkedIn profile, you can definitely follow me on LinkedIn. I do a lot on LinkedIn, and I post. I treat LinkedIn a little bit business and pleasure. So you'll see I mix it up. And then Instagram, Robin Barrett Wilson. So all run together. So those are the two places you'll see me all the time. So
I stalked you earlier before the call, so you'll see that I followed you. Okay. And with that, if you join any of our podcasts, just know that we'll be stalking you as well. So we hope that you join us. No. Anyways, stay unapologetically badass, everybody. We can't thank you enough for listening every single week. Stay tuned for next week. And Robin, you have been a doll. Thank you so, so much. Have a blessed night, everybody, or blessed day, whatever one it is.
Thank you all. Have a good one.
Thank you all.
Bye. All right, queens, that's a wrap for today's episode. But before you hit pause, let's talk about you and how we can help you slay every part of your life. If you're ready to feel fabulous and look like $1,000,000, I've got you covered with my badass queen coaching, sparkling touchstone crystal jewelry, and Bella Grace collagen, because glowing skin and a sparkly vibe, that's a power move. Check it all out at ReneeCarbonFleming.com. And my co-host Sierra, oh yeah, she's bringing the heat too. Not only is she rocking Bella Grace collagen for her glow game, but she's also the queen of chic with her fabulous clothing boutique. From boosting your wellness to leveling up your wardrobe, Sierra's got the magic to help you shine inside and out. Check her out at Linktree/Sierra Weiner 7. So here's the deal. Head to our websites, grab the goods that'll help you live your best life, and let's make everything about you unapologetically badass. And hey, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with your fellow queens, because the more sparkle in the world, the better. Until next time, keep glowing, keep slaying, and remember, you're a badass queen who deserves it all.